Welcome to J&S Biblical Productions, Summer 1928. This is Pamela Bluewater at a private location in the English countryside so that we can interview her ladyship, Connie Chatterley, who has just admitted that she has been concealing an affair from her husband, Clifford Chatterley, with his gamekeeper, Oliver Mellors, and now wants a divorce. We are here to sort this out and to keep this from blowing up into a scandal. Welcome, Mrs. Connie Chatterley.
I really don't want my personal affairs with my gamekeeper to be widely known, so that's why I chose the false name of Duncan for my lover.
Connie, I think it's a little too late for that. D.H. Lawrence published your story privately in Italy, so the world is soon going to know about your gamekeeper. We have with us today a theologian from the Church of the Open Window, Mary Beth Violet, to weigh in on your marriage and your affair with your gamekeeper, Mr. Mellors.
I don't need a theologian. I sent a very sincere letter to my husband, and I asked him for a divorce so he could be rid of me.
Wait on the letter. First, we want to know why you are justifying adultery and why you feel the commandment from God doesn't apply to you.
Miss Bluewater, let's be fair. My husband was injured in World War I. He was paralyzed from the waist down. Because of that, our lives together felt like nothingness. Coming from a background of intimacy, my daily life tended to feel more like a void, like emptiness, like nothing. And our marriage, it was a hypocrisy in so many words.
I'm with the Church of the Open Window. So you would divorce a man just because he's paralyzed below the waist?
Miss Violet, let's be real here. I was surprised by my feelings and how they changed for Clifford. I was surprised by my indifference to him. It wasn't hate. There was an aversion. There was no passion at all. But with Mellors, he attracted me. He excited me. He saw me. There was passion. I don't know if you can understand that. But my husband, he needed something different, something I couldn't provide, someone like his maid, Miss Bolton. She treated him like a child, and she bossed him around, and that's what he likes, that's what he needs, and that is not me.
You're ridiculous. You should have discussed your cravings for passion before you got married.
Have you ever talked to Clifford about what he expects out of a marriage that you could agree to?
And no. At the house, he was talking to a friend once, and he said, I suppose marry and be done with it. I think it's a mere contract. And he told me, he said, at one time he said, two people, they sort of fall into a unison to one another. And he said, if we stick to that, we ought to be able to arrange this sex thing, just as we arrange going to the dentist, since fate has given us a checkmate physically there.
You're married. You took vows. For better or worse, till death do you part, not till you are tired of your spouse.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary Beth, for reminding her of that. Now, Lady Chatterley, we are ready to hear your resignation letter to Clifford. Please read it.
All right, I've got it right here. Dear Clifford, I'm afraid of what you foresaw has happened. I'm really in love with another man, and I do hope you will divorce me. I am staying at present with Duncan in his flat, and I told you he is at Venice with us. I'm awfully unhappy for your sake, but do try to take it quietly. You don't really need me anymore, and I can't bear to come back to Rugby. I'm most awfully sorry, but do try to forgive me and divorce me and find someone better. I'm not really the right person for you, and I am too impatient and selfish, I suppose. But I can't ever come back to live with you again, and I feel so frightfully sorry about it for your sake. But if you don't let yourself get worked up, you'll see you don't mind so frightfully. You didn't really care about me personally. So do forgive me and get rid of me.
That sounds like a letter from a convicted criminal to a judge asking not to stop the execution. So, did you already send this?
Yes, and I received a response.
Which was?
He said, "My God, you ought to be wiped off the face of the earth." And then he called Mellors scum, a bumptious lout, and a miserable cad. And he was so upset that he was my servant. Oh my gosh, he was so upset. And then he raged at me. And he said, "My God, is there no limit to the beastly lowness of women?"
I've changed my mind. Come away with me. Let's go to the country. It'll be so perfect. Please. Come with me.
You miserable snake. She is married!
Married?
As Jesus said, go and sin no more.
Connie Chatterley, I think this should be referred to God and Jesus for forgiveness. This is out of our hands. Our viewers should consider the most important question here. Does Lady Chatterley or the novel Lady Chatterley's Lover have anything to say about the problems that still exist today on this subject? This is Pamela Bluewater for JNS Biblical saying, marriage is a real commitment with a promise and vows to God for eternity. Good morning.
As sensational as D.H. Lawrence's 1928 fictional novel, Lady Chatterley's Lover, became, which was later banned in the U.S. and United Kingdom, the trial of Penguin Books itself was equally remarkable. The English barristers of the Old Bailey Courthouse in London took on the case against the publishing company as if it were the major murder trial of the century. The author, D.H. Lawrence, had already passed away in 1930, so he couldn't be convicted, but the publishing company could, for violating the moral standards of the day. The trial, in summary, was a battle of barristers, lawyers, and a judge who tried to show that they were protectors of the morality of women, and in particular, 14-year-old schoolgirls as a standard for decent literature. The trial lasted 6 days. 35 witnesses were called. They lost. The value of literary content won over. When the trial ended on November 10th, 1960, 3 million copies of Lady Chatterley's Lover flew off the shelves. The morality and purity of 14-year-old schoolgirls was not the standard by which writers were to be constrained by law to write on behalf of. However, JNS Biblical Productions chose this story as an example to illustrate adultery in its elementary definition. Even after the trial was over, there were still no plans to take "do not commit adultery" out of the Bible by any liberal group of ministers, priests, or rabbis. The act of adultery is still forbidden by God and is a sin regardless of the merits of any literary test that places it in any acceptable form to the public. JNS Biblical Productions therefore gives no approval or blessing to the act of adultery, no matter how much an adulterer proclaims it is justified because of a bad marriage or spouse.
What are your thoughts on today's story? We'd like to know. So, leave a comment and subscribe to our channel, J&S Authentic Biblical Productions. Whether it's the Word of God through parables, true stories illustrating parables, or true stories in the life of Jesus Christ with commentary, you can see them all by subscribing to the most comprehensive collection of videos of biblical stories for you and your family. Have a blessed day.